I trusted him with my entire life, and that was the biggest mistake I ever made. I wasn't born into that family. I was placed inside it. Because the man I trusted didn't poison me. He just stood there while his wife decided whether I should live. That morning, my stepsister was in the kitchen holding a smoothie like a peace offering. "Mom says you need to drink this," she said, not meeting my eyes. That was strange. She never spoke for herself anymore. "What's in it?" I asked. "Protein fruit, just drink it." Her fingers were shaking. From the hallway, I heard my stepmother's heels, waiting. My stepdad sighed from the table. "Can you not make everything difficult for once?" So I drank. 2 gulps. My throat ignited like I had swallowed fire, not spicy. Chemical, I gagged, dropping the cup. The liquid splashed on the tile and immediately started eating through the finish, leaving pale scars behind. I stared at it. So did my stepmother as she walked in. For one brief second, her eyes flicked to the floor, then to me. Then she smiled. "What are you doing now?" she asked. "She poisoned it," I gasped. "Look, stop being dramatic," she snapped, grabbing a towel and wiping the spill before anyone else could see. "You're always looking for attention." "It's burning," I cried. "My throat." My stepdad didn't even stand up. "Go lie down, you probably ate something bad yesterday." They weren't confused. They weren't worried. They were coordinating. I turned toward the door. "I need help." My stepmother's voice hardened. "You are not going outside making a scene." My stepsister stepped in front of me. I thought she was going to help. She grabbed my arm. "Stop," she whispered. "Mom said not to." Her grip wasn't cruel. It was desperate. I shoved past her and stumbled toward the door. Behind me, I heard my stepmother's voice, cold and clear. "If she passes out, drag her back inside." That's when I knew. They weren't trying to save me. They were waiting for me to stop moving. I collapsed on the sidewalk. The last thing I remember is my neighbor screaming my name. I woke up choking under bright hospital lights, doctors talking too fast. She ingested something corrosive, damage to the throat. Then I heard my stepdad. "She has anxiety," he said calmly. "She exaggerates." Even here, even now, my stepmother leaned in. "She's been unstable since her real mother died, always making up stories about what happens in our house." My neighbor stepped forward. "I saw your daughter pour something into that drink." My stepmother snapped her head toward her. "You've been spying on us." "I have cameras," my neighbor said. "My yard, your kitchen window is in frame." My stepsister started crying. "I didn't want to," she whispered. "Mom told me to. She said she was lying about what really happened before she came to live with us." The room went still. The doctor looked up. "What happened?" My stepmother's eyes went sharp. "Be quiet." But my stepsister couldn't stop. She said if people found out about her real family, about who she really belonged to, everything would fall apart. The doctor looked at his chart. "There are older traces in her blood. This isn't the first exposure." My stepdad went pale, because now this wasn't an accident. It was maintenance. They weren't trying to hurt me. They were trying to erase me. That drink wasn't meant to make me sick. It was meant to keep a truth about my real family buried for. The hospital room didn't feel safe. Not after the way my stepmother had walked out. Not after the way my stepdad had gone quiet. And not after the doctor had said there were older traces in my blood. Someone had been feeding me poison long before that morning. Small doses, just enough to keep me weak, just enough to make me look unstable, just enough to make nobody believe me. My neighbor sat beside my bed, her hand wrapped around mine. "I tried to warn them," she whispered. "Years ago, when you kept getting sick, but your stepmother said I was imagining things." That sounded familiar. Imagining things. That was always her favorite word. When I cried, I was imagining things. When I forgot something, I was confused. When I remembered something different, I was lying. She didn't hit me. She erased me. The door opened again. A police officer stepped inside. "We need to ask you a few questions," he said gently. "About before you came to live with them." My heart started racing. "What about it?" "Your stepsister said you've been making things up about your past." I let out a shaky breath. "I didn't make them up," I said. "My mom told me things before everything changed." "What things?" "That the man I was told was my father wasn't." The officer looked up sharply. "You think you were taken?" "I think I was moved," I said. without anyone explaining why. My stepmother walked back in before he could answer. "What lies are you filling her head with now?" she asked, her voice sweet and cutting at the same time. The officer didn't back down. "Your daughter said you were afraid of what she might say about her real family." My stepmother smiled. "That child is confused." But something flickered in her eyes. Not fear, calculation. Later, when she left again, my neighbor leaned in close. "Your mother tried to talk to me once," she whispered. "A few weeks before she disappeared." My chest tightened. "She said people were watching her, that she was afraid someone wanted to take you." "Who?" I asked. "She wouldn't say, she just kept repeating your name." The officer came back. "We're looking into your birth records," he said. "There are inconsistencies." My stomach dropped. "What kind?" "Names that don't line up, documents that were altered, nothing definitive yet." Not proof, but not nothing, just enough to make everything feel dangerous. That's when my stepdad walked in. He wouldn't look at me. The officer turned to him. "Did your wife ever talk about where your stepdaughter came from?" He hesitated, just a little. "She said the girl's mother was unstable." "That's all." He swallowed. She said there were complications." The officer nodded slowly. "Complications with what? With who had the right to her?" I stared at him. "What does that mean?" My stepdad didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because my stepmother was already standing in the doorway again, listening. My mother didn't just vanish. Someone had been afraid of what she might say about who I really was. They didn't let me go back to that house. The officer didn't say it out loud, but the way he looked at my stepmother told me everything. "She's not allowed near you anymore." So my neighbor took me home with her. It felt strange being somewhere that didn't smell like fear. No locked doors, no fake smiles, no watching my plate. I should have felt safe. I didn't. My phone buzzed twice on the way there. "Unknown number. You're making things worse." I didn't answer. That night, my neighbor sat across from me at her kitchen table. "I didn't want to say this in front of her," she said quietly, "but I kept copies." "Copies of what?" "Of things your mother gave me." She slid a folder across the table. Inside were old emails, printed, saved, preserved. They keep changing the forms. "She says if I fight it, they'll make me disappear." My hands shook. "She was terrified," my neighbor said. "Not of losing custody. Of losing you." She opened her laptop and pulled up a scanned file. It was a legal document, stamped, filed, official. Temporary custody transfer. My name was at the top. The mother listed wasn't my mother, it was my stepmother. "That's not possible," I whispered. "She never had rights to me." "That's why it was temporary," my neighbor said, "and why it was supposed to expire." I checked the date. It had been renewed, again and again, every year signed by the same name. My stepmother. Someone knocked at the door, hard. My neighbor went still. Through the peephole she saw him, my stepdad. "I just want to see her," he called out. "My wife is being accused of things." "She falsified custody paperwork," my neighbor said through the door. Silence, then his voice dropped. "She was never supposed to see that." My blood ran cold. "What?" my neighbor demanded. Nothing, he walked away, but now I knew. He hadn't just watched, he had helped. 5 minutes later, a black SUV rolled slowly past the house. Then again, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "That file belongs to us." My neighbor locked the door. "They know you have it," she whispered. That paper didn't just prove I was taken. It proved someone had been renewing control over me every year of my life. The SUV didn't leave. It idled across the street long after the sun went down, headlights cutting through the curtains like it was watching the house breathe. My neighbor turned off the lights. "Don't go near the windows," she whispered. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "You think that paper makes you special?" I didn't reply. Another message came through. "It makes you expendable." My neighbor slid a thick envelope across the table. "This is what they were afraid you'd see." Inside was another birth certificate, not the one I'd grown up with. This one was older, untouched. My name, my mother's name, and a father I'd never seen before. "Who is he?" I whispered. "He was married," she said, "and powerful enough that your mother was told to disappear." The last name wasn't famous. It was worse. It was the kind of name that came with law firms and private investigators. "And your stepmother?" I asked. "She was related to him, distant, but close enough to know exactly what you were worth." The SUV's engine revved outside. "They didn't take you because they hated you," my neighbor said. "They took you because you were inconvenient." My phone buzzed again. "That man isn't who you think he is." My neighbor went pale. "That number, that's your stepmother's." "Why text me now?" "Because she knows you saw his name." The SUV pulled a few feet closer. Slow, deliberate. "They're not trying to scare you," my neighbor whispered. "They're trying to decide what to do with you. They didn't steal me to hurt me. They stole me to protect someone far more dangerous." The SUV was gone when the sun came up. That didn't mean we were safe. It meant a decision had already been made. My neighbor made coffee we didn't drink. Her hands shook as she slid my phone back to me. A message was waiting. No number. Just a name, a man's name. Something in my chest cracked when I saw it. "That's him," she said quietly. "Your father." Not the man who signed my school papers. Not the man who let his wife poison me. The one who vanished. She opened the last folder. Inside were copies of letters my mother had written, not to my stepmother, not to my stepdad, but to a lawyer. He says his wife will destroy me if she finds out. He says I have to give the baby up if I want her to live. He promises to come back when it's safe. My throat closed. "He knew," I whispered. "He knew I existed." "He did," my neighbor said. "And he chose silence anyway. But then why did she take me? Because when he walked away, there was still a child who knew too much." The front door creaked as if someone had tested it. Not opened, just checked. Another message appeared. "You were never supposed to know." "They're not afraid of you," my neighbor said. "They're afraid of what you carry." I looked down at my name on the custody papers, the renewals, the signatures. Every year my stepmother had refiled ownership of me, not because she loved me, because I was proof of a man who wanted his life undisturbed. "I wasn't poisoned because I was weak," I whispered. "I was poisoned because I was inconvenient." My neighbor nodded. "They weren't trying to kill you, they were trying to keep you quiet." Sirens echoed somewhere far away, too far to matter, because powerful people don't need police. They need paperwork. They need silence. They need children who grow up doubting themselves. I stared at the letters my mother had written. She hadn't abandoned me. She had been trapped by someone with more money, more lawyers, and less heart. I wasn't stolen for love. I was stolen for convenience. This wasn't a family tragedy. It was a bloodline covered in ink and lies. And the man who erased me is still out there, living a clean life built on my mother's silence and my stolen childhood.